It feels like Russia.
Yes.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm from Russia. It's warmer than.
That's true. So yeah, I actually found this as a commercial, but this actually looked like. Wait, are either one of you guys presenting? You already presented yours, didn't you? You already presented yours. All right. We'll watch this. I actually watched it twice in the first class because this, in terms of mental health, this was a commercial for something that they have, but this looked to be spot on for like what a lot of us experience, especially in COVID. So.
Go home for tonight.
So this would be like an assessment they do to check your mental health. So remember, we have services across the street. If you guys ever feel stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, she said if you call and leave her a message, she will call you back. This offers suggestions on how to like do self-care, and they're actually pretty good. Because we do have a space, we have a little trail like this. I think it's the other corner of campus. Like you go all the way over there and you can walk to like where the landscapers dump plants and just get into nature. They also have a questionnaire to see if you feel safe. That can come up a lot too.
Welcome to Base Education, the only clinically developed social emotional learning program that provides a quiet, private, and safe space for students to share and reflect. BASE was created to offer students an outlet for personal growth. Through its quiet design, BASE provides students an introspective space to reflect on their lives without the noise and distractions of everyday life that prevents them from focusing on themselves. The respectful, therapeutic approach encourages students to make discoveries about themselves while giving them a sense of hope about their future. Every element, down to the smallest detail, has been built with the student's experience in mind. Vivid imagery is carefully.
So they mentioned this mindfulness app up here. This is something you could also download. There's several of them. The one that I use is actually called, if I can find it for you, the Insight Timer. And it does, just a time to like breathe and take time out and reflect. And again, like I said, this is a commercial for like a mental health program they do for schools. But a lot of us are going through this, especially during COVID. Anybody presenting today? I should ask before. Okay. So we'll watch this and then I'll pull that up for you.
Selected to illustrate concepts and guide them through storytelling. The common design allows for thoughts to be deeply explored. Each screen contains minimal text and is designed to actively engage the emotion center of the brain. The result is a non-academic look and feel to evoke optimal engagement. Base Education's unique model gives students autonomy to share, yet provides a way for educators to quickly connect with and understand the students better. Base Education is the only SEL program with the capacity to be used fully online or in the classroom and can track potentially harmful language with real-time response monitoring. Given the enormous challenges in the instructional day, educators rarely have the time and resources to give every student the one-on-one attention they deserve. BASE makes it possible for educators to know their students at a deeper level, hear their stories, and provide them with the individualized support they need. The human element is so important, and BASE doesn't seek to replace this. Rather, BASE provides an efficient pathway for educators to learn more about their students. Students need committed adults who are willing to work with them and provide insight into their lives. Students who use BASE report feeling cared for and heard. A Effective social emotional learning support cannot be a box checking exercise. Base education believes students deserve to experience growth in the best way possible. Educators deserve to have the tools that give them a leg up in supporting your students. Whether it's used in the classroom for group instruction or one-on-one online, BASE is a proven CASEL-approved solution to meet the complex social, emotional, and mental health needs of today's students. We are here to help you empower your students and prepare them for life's journey.
So like I said, that's just a advertisement for like a mental health program. We can easily mimic that here on campus, especially with if you guys contact the mental health center across the street. They said if you ever call and leave a message, they will call back. If you need time in nature, we do have the woods. Actually, the campus next door is kind of a nice space to walk to. I've walked it a few times. And doing some of the mindfulness apps. So let's see here. Who wanted to go first for those of you that are presenting? Anybody else presenting today? Or is it just one? I guess it's just one of you guys. All right. Did you submit it into here or email it? Okay. And then how do you spell your name? That's right. All right, there you go. Oh, I might be in the morning class, so let me get to the afternoon class. Because that would be you guys, number 2. All right, there it is. Cool. That one? Nope. Ah, there it is. Okay. You can tell how good my hearing is from up here. All right, here you go. Whew.
This is my self-observation. Location was in Troy, Ohio. Troy is a city in Ohio. It's a city in Ohio, kind of in the country. Located 19 miles from Dayton. And when my self-observation took place in this fast food place called Fresh Steak. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Frish's Big Boys.
So I expected to get looked at weirdly, since I do not share a familiar part of Licking State. Troy consists of 87% white people. Only 4% of Troy residents are African American. I was hoping nothing bad would happen, so I was only ordering fast food, but it was like an in-and-out thing. I expected for people to act normally despite their beliefs. When we were about to order, the lady at the counter kind of just stared at us. So she like waited. We kept ordering. She was standing there. She stared at us. We were like, okay, we're gonna order. So we kept ordering, and then like after we were fully done ordering, she was like, I can't serve you. And then she called someone else to come and serve us. Like we don't know why she waited that long. She didn't want to interrupt us or something, but she just like fully waited until we were done. And she was like, oh, I can't do that. She just served the people before us, though, so we thought that she was going to serve us.
So this was a sit-down order? Okay.
The counter.
Okay.
There was a lot of like elderly people. They were occasionally glancing at us. It was kind of a lot of us in there. I have my little brother and my sister with me. We ordered, in the end, they got our order wrong, so they gave us a free drink.
That's good. They at least compensated, kind of.
Mm-hmm. And then everything was kind of normal. We got our food. It was kind of good. I don't really like Fresh. It was good, but I wouldn't get it again. The coworkers were a little weird. They seemed like really distracted with something, even though there was like very little customers in there. It wasn't terrible. I might have been a little nervous since I was the only person of color in the restaurant, but everyone else was harmless, so it was okay.
Well, thank you. Any questions from anybody? Thank you. So is anybody else presenting today? You guys have all gone, or you're going to do it on a YouTube channel? That's one of the differences. Let's see if I can get you.
So let's say you have to read an incredible.
Actually, this little Speechify app is pretty helpful too. You guys ever heard of that one in terms of like reading your stuff? If you paste a website into there, it like reads it for you. So I think I have it on this one. It helps a lot because I have dyslexia, so I don't always get it perfectly right reading. But, well, yeah, it's right there. So you can just paste a website in. You can also like scan a text in. So if that would be helpful to you guys too, that one is a good one. I don't have it on my new phone yet, so that's why I'm saving it. All right. Second mental health video is here.
You may not realize it, but using these words to describe someone with a mental health condition can be very harmful. While a mental illness may not always be visible on the outside, it doesn't mean someone isn't hurting on the inside. In fact, 1 in 6 Floridians struggles with a mental health condition. It's time for all of us to change how we think and speak about mental illness. Mental illness can come in many forms. One of this is a topic we find hard to talk about. The American Psychiatric Association defines mental illness as a health condition involving changes in thinking, emotion, or behavior. These conditions may affect someone's ability to relate to others and function each day. But how do you define mental health? And how do you stay mentally healthy?
Mental health to me just is taking care of yourself. I think getting sleep, staying stress-free, spending time for yourself, having a good time.
It's about mental wellness, really, I think. And so being your best self and feeling good most of the time and having energy and being able to enjoy each moment is really, I think, what it's about.
Usually when I hear mental health, I initially think of like mental illness. So I feel like, unfortunately, that's the first thing people usually connect with mental health.
Honestly, I haven't really thought about mental health before. I guess it's just being healthy mentally. Like you work out and stuff, so I guess it would be the same, with school or whatever.
For me, to stay mentally healthy, I definitely just try to be active and get involved, and I exercise regularly, and I take my medicine every day, and I talk to my doctor and therapist regularly, and I also attend a peer support group weekly.
I have a very strong support system with my family, so I know that if at any time I have any kind of issue or I feel any type of way, I feel very comfortable talking to my mom or my sister, anybody like that.
I think being around people helps me a lot. So whether it's friends, family, I love my family, I love being with them. So that really keeps me mentally healthy.
No less an authority than the World Health Organization has said that there is no health without mental health. So from the very highest levels of healthcare, there is a recognition that you cannot truly be a healthy person without conscience as well. And while we're all familiar with mental illness, the absence of mental illness does not necessarily mean that someone is mentally healthy. What are some of the components that go into being mentally healthy? Being able to understand yourself and what your needs are, what your emotions are, and so on. Being able to communicate your needs to others hear what they have to say in an empathic way, and to be able to resolve differences there. It's important also to know how to cope with challenges in life, and also how to be resilient, a skill that we can learn. And so it's very important for us to all work together to incorporate mental health as part of our overall health profile.
Mental health is important. In fact, there can be no health without mental health. This video and the series of videos that follow has been put together by the Mental Health Council of the Big Bend, a group of local mental health service providers, experts, and stakeholders. We've designed this series of videos to educate you on key mental health topics and to help connect you with mental health resources. It's time for all of us to get involved in the conversation about mental health, because mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of. It's a medical problem, just like heart disease or diabetes. To get connected to mental health resources,
So there's a few videos that they were showing that was helpful because they started doing the mental health stuff as early as 2019. So this was before coronavirus. And when we all went online, did you guys all have class online like your senior year? Okay. That, I don't know if it was easy for some of you, but it seemed to actually take a big hit
It's hard
on
to
a lot of
Mint Mobile
folks.
to be good at just $15 a month. So as Mint's new owner, I brought in one of our.
It's still playing it somehow. So the World Health Organization put out a few things about mental health, and that actually started as soon as 2019. So this was before coronavirus. Obviously, we're in the middle of that campaign. They said it was going to go on from 2019 until 2023, and we're only halfway through that right now, and why it's such an important part of what's going on right now. Here is one other one for the mental health at work, because this, in a few years, you guys will be working. And it can be stressful at work. It's just as stressful as at school. But how do you do that self-care so you can handle work?
We all have mental health. It is just as important as physical health. It is not only about mental illness or mental disorders. This is just one part of a bigger picture. It's best to think about mental health as being on a continuum, rather than people being either mentally ill or mentally well. We are all on the continuum, and we move up and down according to factors such as our genetic makeup and upbringing, our life circumstances, and the stresses we are under. At one end of the continuum, we have mental disorders, like depression or anxiety. And at the other end, we have states of positive mental health, when we're thriving, content, and fulfilled. The aim of mental health interventions is to move people up the continuum so that they're able to reach their full potential and live satisfied lives. The World Health Organization describes mental health as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Being mentally healthy means being resilient and able to cope with difficult times, feeling in control, being confident, feeling good about yourself, managing and expressing your emotions, building and maintaining good relationships. We all experience periods when we feel stressed, worried, anxious, sad, afraid, or angry. These are all normal emotions. However, when these emotions become severe enough that it interferes with the person's ability to function daily, and these feelings become persistent over time, then it can develop into a mental health problem. There are many different types of mental disorders. When left untreated, mental disorders can be chronic and long-lasting, and are associated with increased disability. They significantly have an impact on daily functioning and frequently interfere with family, social, and work responsibilities. Fortunately, there are effective treatments and evidence-based interventions available that aim to help individuals understand and cope with symptoms of mental illness. However, very few people with mental disorders access existing treatment services. This may be due to barriers such as the stigma attached to seeking help, the lack of understanding of mental health problems, uncertainty of how to get help, or the fear of disclosing mental health problems. Research shows that stigma remains one of the biggest factors preventing people from seeking help early for their mental health problems and getting the appropriate support they need. It is important to acknowledge that we all have mental health and have a personal responsibility to learn how we can improve and maintain our well-being in order to lead meaningful and satisfying lives. Want to learn how you can do this? Great news! Why not join one of our communities and keep exploring?
So that video brings up stigma, which is one of the biggest ones, because a lot of times we think if we talk about stuff, it could get out and gossip, and that's partly why there's that vow to confidentiality. As social workers and counselors, you'll learn in the few years you get in the field, especially in graduate school, because that vow to confidentiality allows you to feel free to speak about things openly and to open up to folks that are there to help you. So do you guys have any questions about mental health stuff? We're finishing up with chapter 12 at this point. So more than a quarter of us are affected by mental health, either people that we have had in our lives that have mental health issues, or even ourselves from our own diagnosis. In social work, you can deal with it both inpatient and outpatient. They often use like nurses, doctors, and social workers and counselors, and sometimes community-based delivery, where they do home visits. And with the drug and alcohol stuff, we've seen a few videos on this. This is one of the negative ways to cope. So you could do coping with mindfulness, meditation, nature walks, things of that nature. When it creeps over to alcohol use disorder or drug use disorder, that's when it become problematic. Like if you have a genetic history in your family, that any aunts or uncles or even grandparents that have alcohol use disorder or substance use disorder, that's a good indicator that like genetically, if we do drink, even at the legal age, we're more destined towards alcoholism. So in social work, our response is doing both personal and family counseling. We'll do referrals for education if needed, or even legal services if needed. And then work with the at-risk groups with like prevention stuff. So let me make sure there was one last one. About taking a break, if it will work.
Why doesn't every home in the US have solar panels? The number one reason is not about sunlight or weather.
They're expensive. I'm not going to play the beginning noise because it'll shut me down on YouTube. So I'll wait until she starts talking, because this is for...
I made this deal. I was allowed to take 3 mental health rest days every semester as long as I continued to do well in school. This was because I started my mental health journey when I was only 6 years old. I was always what my grade school teachers would call a worrier, but later on we found out that I have trauma-induced anxiety and clinical depression. This made growing up pretty hard. I was worried about a lot of things that other kids weren't, and school got really overwhelming sometimes. This resulted in a lot of breakdowns, panic attacks. Sometimes I was super productive, and other days I couldn't get anything done. This was all happening during a time when mental health wasn't being talked about as much as it is now, especially youth mental health. Some semesters I used all of those rest days to the fullest. Others, I didn't need any at all. But the fact that they were always an option is what kept me a happy, healthy, and successful student. Now I'm using those skills that I learned as a kid to help other students with mental health challenges. I'm here today to offer you some insight into the world of teenage mental health. What's going on, how did we get here, and what can we do? But first, you need to understand that while not everyone has a diagnosed mental illness like I do, absolutely everyone, all of you have mental health. All of us have a brain that needs to be cared for in similar ways that we care for our physical well-being. Our head and our body are connected by much more than just our neck after all. Mental illness even manifests itself in some physical ways, such as nausea, headaches, fatigue, and shortness of breath. So since mental health affects all of us, shouldn't we be coming up with solutions that are accessible to all of us? That brings me to my second part of my story. When I was in high school, I had gotten pretty good at managing my own mental health. I was a successful student, and I was president of the Oregon Association of Student Councils. But it was around this time that I began to realize mental health was a much bigger problem than just for me personally. Unfortunately, my hometown was touched by multiple suicides during my first year in high school. I saw those tragedies shake our entire community. And as the president of a statewide group, I began hearing more and more stories from students where this had also happened in their town. So in 2018, at our annual summer camp, we held a forum with about 100 high school students to discuss teenage mental health. What could we do? We approached this conversation with an enormous amount of empathy and honesty, and the results were astounding. What struck me the most was that every single one of my peers had a story about a mental health crisis in their school, no matter if they were from tiny town East Oregon or the very heart of Portland. This was happening everywhere. We even did some research, and we found out that suicide is the second leading cause of death for youth ages 10 to 24 in Oregon. The second leading cause. We knew we had to do something. So over the next few months, we made a committee called the Students for a Healthy Oregon, and we set out to end the stigma against mental health. We also wanted to prioritize mental health in schools. With the help of some lobbyists and a few mental health professionals, we put forth House Bill 2191. This bill allows students to take mental health days off from school the same way you would a physical health day. Because oftentimes that day off is the difference between feeling a whole lot better and a whole lot worse. Kind of like those days my mom gave me when I was younger. So over the next few months, we lobbied and researched and campaigned for our bill, and in June of 2019, it was finally signed into law. This was a groundbreaking moment for Oregon students. Here's an example of how this is playing out now. Let's say a student is having a really hard month. They're overwhelmed, overworked, they're falling behind in school, and they know they need help. Maybe they've never talked about mental health with their parents before, but now they have a law on their side to help initiate that conversation. The parent still needs to be the one to call the school and excuse the absence, so it's not like it's a free pass for the kids. But most importantly, now the school has that absence recorded as a mental health day, so they can keep track of just how many students take how many mental health days. If a student takes too many, they'll be referred to the school counselor for a check-in. This is important because we can catch students who are struggling before it's too late. One of the main things we heard at that forum in 2018 is that oftentimes stepping forward and getting help is the hardest step. We're hoping that this law can help with that. This not only will start teaching kids young how to take care of themselves and practice self-care and stress management, but it could also literally save lives. Now students from multiple other states are also trying to pass these laws. I'm currently working with students in both California and Colorado to do the same because we believe that students everywhere deserve a chance to feel better. Aside from all the practical reasons and technicalities, House Bill 2191 is really special because of the core concept behind it, that physical and mental health are equal and should be treated as such. In fact, they're connected. Take healthcare, for example. Think about CPR. If you were put in a situation where you had to administer CPR, would you know at least a little bit of what to do? Think to yourself. Most likely, yes, because CPR trainings are offered in most schools, workplaces, and even online. We even have songs that go with it. But how about mental health care? I know I was trained in CPR in my 7th grade health class. What if I was trained in 7th grade how to manage my mental health or how to respond to a mental health crisis? I'd love to see a world where each of us has a toolkit of skills to help a friend, coworker, family member, or even a stranger going through a mental health crisis. And these resources should be especially available in schools because that's where students are struggling the most. The other concept that I sincerely hope you take with you today is that it is always okay to not be okay, and it is always okay to take a break. It doesn't have to be a whole day. Sometimes that's not realistic, but it can be a few moments here and there to check in with yourself. Think of life like a long distance race. If you sprint in the very beginning, you're going to get burnt out. You may even hurt yourself from pushing too hard. But if you pace yourself, if you take it slow sometimes intentionally, and you push yourself other times, you are sure to be way more successful. So please, look after each other. Look after the kids and teens in your life, especially the ones that look like they have it all together. Mental health challenges are not going away, but as a society, we can learn how to manage them by looking after one another. And look after yourself too. As my mom would say, once in a while, take a break. Thank you.
So what exposure have you guys had to like mental health stuff? Like in high school, do they have counselors or social workers there? Or anybody to help you? Or do they blow it off like, oh, you're fine, just look it up online, or use your smartphone and find somebody? Like, how do they handle it if you guys have? Yeah.
So we get counselors, but we also can have a room we can go to, like, meditate.
Oh, really? Where was that one at again?
For my school,
Yeah.
so
Okay. Interesting. Huh. That's kind of cool, actually.
I had a psychologist in university, but you had like to be in a clinic, and it took like 2-3 months to wait for your time will come up. So if you got, I don't know, some bad issues during these 2 or 3 months, everything could happen. And when I finally came to the specialist, I had completely different problems that I had when I was trying to get to him.
It's amazing too, because it can sometimes make you have, slow you down, have a challenge with work, and why it's important, to take care of these while you still have the opportunity, while you're young, while you have a chance in school. How many want to go into mental health when you get your social work licensure or do stuff with mental health? Anybody? Yeah. So like maybe even graduate school. Okay, cool. It's definitely a rewarding field. It can sometimes be challenging. So like doing that self-care is important. So you don't, they call it transference and countertransference. Like when you talk to stressed out people all day, you got to make sure you're mentally well so that you don't absorb all of the energy and do good self-care items. Any of those who just came in, are you guys presenting your PowerPoints today at all? Anybody else presenting? Anybody taking the film yourself on YouTube live option? Because of COVID, you are allowed to do that. So your next paper and instructions are in here, and they're also, they're not due till November 12th. So if you went in, it would be under the diversity paper. So just make sure to check in on that. I wanted to give you guys a chance to, I've opened everything up. So if you're missing anything in D2L, including like your PowerPoint you presented or any of that, or if D2L wasn't working for you for a moment, I've opened everything up so you still could submit all of the papers and then your presentation and this last one. So make sure to do that for full credit because now we're done with like the 2 rounds of midterm grades, and now it should be really the last month and a week and a half is going into finals and final grades. So just make sure if you're missing anything, get it in there, take advantage of the chance to go back in and see what's in there. Everybody registered? You guys need help with registration at all? That's one of the harder ones. Do they really give you money if you register, or are they lying about that?
They said it was real, but they said they don't have any information.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That is weird. Were you presenting today? Okay. I knew there was somebody, so I wanted to make sure to get in before. Did you turn in D2L, or is it on a thumb drive? Because I can pull it up for you if you put it in here. Okay. No big deal. Yeah, you can log in here. That's fine. And are you registered for next semester too? Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure you guys, anybody that needed help, make sure you do your check sheet and yeah, go into Google here. You can even just like log me out or add me in or however's easiest for you. Anybody have questions about graduation, registration? Is that $1,500 thing for real too, or is that a big fat lie? Is it really? Are they mailing a check, or how do they do that?
I think it's when they deposit it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I know some schools that they check out.
Oh, so this is like nationwide. This isn't just like a central state thing. Maybe they'll sit on it for a minute so they can collect interest on your money, and then they'll give it to you in like a month. Sometimes I wonder. Well, that's good. Is it letting you log in? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. That's probably like slides. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I didn't even think about slides. And then, yeah, remember at least to submit it in D2L. So just so that you get it graded through that. I can just change it for you too.
Yeah.
If you want me to.
Yeah, that's cool.
Present. There it is. Okay.
Okay.
So you can look on this or that, whatever's easier.
I'm Samaya and Sally, and I did my observation at Walmart.
Next.
I went to the Xenia Walmart twice in one day, so I thought it'd be cool to compare my experiences with my mom versus when I went with my group of friends and how they were different, how they compared. I expected to be able to just shop in peace and not be followed like everyone else, and to be greeted and to walk out without, having my bags checked. We were greeted with my mom, and you're just able to shop in peace. My mom's older, so. But when I went with my friends, it felt like every time we went down the aisle that like a worker was in, the attention was on us. We weren't greeted, but that could have been because they had a different person up there, so it was circumstantial. But we went to self-checkout, and no one was there when we first got there, and then once we got there, an employee came pretty fast to check us out. But they were like really discreet with it to not try to make it obvious that they had bias, but since I was there that same day with my mom, I kind of knew. But in conclusion, it could have been a coincidence. However, we get followed a lot of the central for students, so I don't think it's coincidental. I think, they think of us as memes and stuff like that, because when I was with my mom, none of the things happened with her versus with my friends. So. And that was it.
Do you guys have any questions? Any similar experiences when you go to Walmart? I know I always ask this, but like, Who was it? Sam seems to be the worst, but like sometimes Walmart, they're starting to act like Sam. So they scan your receipt and they make it worse. And one thing, I don't know if you notice if you have different hair. I used to have dreadlocks growing up and I would get searched all the time. Like I had longer hair and it was kind of like knotted, but do you notice if you do your hair differently, they also mess with
Yes.
you? Do you guys notice that? And I don't know if it's just a natural thing or stuff that comes up, but that was one of the observations I had growing up. Well, thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? Because we are at 40 minutes on here. Any questions about the diversity assignment? That's just like a 2-pager. So you have till November 12th. Yep. Yes. Just because everything from here on out would be turned in. So just like double space, and I have that title page, the 2 pages of writing, references, ideally like a journal reference, and then that would be it. So, well, that's all I got. So feel free to email or contact me if you have other questions. Just take this chance to get caught up. Anything you still need to turn